Alright, we are moving on from polynomial long division and synthetic division and all that. We're moving on to rational functions next. We'll be here for a few weeks. Rational functions, just a fancy word for saying fractions. These are just some examples of what you're going to be seeing them look like. We're not going to be graphing these or anything like that. We're just going to be doing all basic algebra operations, multiplying, dividing, adding, subtracting, and then we'll finish with some equations, and that's kind of the next couple weeks here, 4 weeks probably, hopefully. Just kind of look at the basics of each type that we'll look at. So hopefully nothing too crazy for you. I'll keep the factoring pretty simple as we go through, but we'll hold off on the factoring these first couple examples. So real quick, just recapping some things. Recalling different ways to simplify fractions. 10 over 20. You cancel out the 10, or they both have a factor or a common factor of 10, so you reduce them both by 10 to get 1/2 is your answer. Same deal with 24 and 32. The common factor between those two happen to be 8, so you reduce them both down by 8 to get 3/4. 24 divided by 8 is 3, 32 divided by 8 is 4. And those are your two final answers there. That'll be a little bit of what we're doing in the beginning here. Same with this. Dealing with exponents, if you guys remember, just kind of bringing some old stuff back. X to the 5th really means x times x times x times x times x. 5x is up top, 3x is on the bottom. So you cancel out 1 for 1. Cancel out these two, these two, these two. You're left with an x times x up top, which happens to be x squared over 1. When 1's on the bottom, we don't need it, so x squared is just your answer. A couple more here. If we had 3 up top and 7 on the bottom, you have 3 up top there, 7 on the bottom. You cancel them out. 1 for 1 deals. So, for example, this first one cancels out with 1 of them on the bottom, second one up top with second one on the bottom, third one up top with a third one on the bottom, and you write what you're left over with. I happen to be left over with 4x's on the bottom, and so it's a 1 up top since nothing's left up top. I need that placeholder, and then an x to the 4th on the bottom. That 1 needs to stay up top though, so that's your final answer there. Now, just recall my thinking here. I don't need to see all the x's written on. Matter of fact, I don't want to. If I have 6 x's up top, 3 x's on the bottom, the most I can cancel out is 3 of them. So I cancel out 3 x's on top and bottom. If I take 3 x's out of 6, I'm left with an x cubed over 1 technically, so I just write x cubed as my answer. Same deal here. I have 11 x's up top, 21 on the bottom. I can only cancel out 11 of them. So I cancel out 11 out of the 21 on the bottom. I'm left with 10. But since I was left with nothing up top, I need to rewrite that 1 up top. Alright, so that's going to come into play moving forward here. Let's step it up a little. So if we had this fraction initially, what I do is I go ahead and I split it up. Whether you put the dotted lines there or not, that's up to you. 6 over 2, I divide or reduce the leading coefficients, the numbers out front. 6 divided by 2 is the 3. I cancel out the smaller of the exponents. So we think to ourselves, if I have 4 x's on top, I have 1 on the bottom technically. I take out 1 on top and bottom. So 4 minus 1 is just 3 up top. 1 minus 1, all the x's are gone on top, or on the bottom. So I have x cubed on the bottom. X cubed up top, sorry. Same deal with the y's. 3 of them can cancel, so I'm left with y to the 4th up top. Again, the 1's not necessary when it's on the bottom. Moving forward, same deal. 12 over 15 does not divide nicely, so I just find the common factor. I reduce them. I reduce by the common factor of 3. So I'm left with a 4 and a 5 out front on top and bottom. X's, my bigger x exponent is up on the bottom, so I'm going to be left with x's on the bottom. I'm left with 4 on the bottom. Same with the y's, but I just happen to be left with 5 up top. So I have my final answer here, 4y to the 5th over 5x to the 4th. One more, I believe. Yeah, get into some factoring here. Just split it up. It's the same thing. It's just I have nothing left up top, so I got to write the 1. Now, the one thing I do want to point out here is this y to the first. I don't need that 1 on the exponent, though. I just kept writing it. If you write it, it's not wrong. If you don't write it, it's 100% right still. All right, so hopefully my notes can kind of, you guys can look at that one on your own as well moving forward. Now, 2 things here that I want to tell you that cannot happen. If I have plus signs, plus or minus, it doesn't matter. This is where the factoring gets a little tricky. What I cannot do is I cannot cancel out those x's and be left with 2. It's not the same thing. Same deal here. These x's can't cancel, as well as those x's can't cancel. Alright, I also cannot reduce the 6 and the 2. What happens moving forward is we have to factor. So if we have this, alright, same thing as what I just did. Alright, if we have this, the first step you have to do is factor the top and bottom first, but in this case we don't have to on the bottom. So I have x plus 3 over and times x plus 2 on top. Notice I have x plus 2 on top and bottom. I reduce the common factor. The common factor happens to be the whole thing, x plus 2, so I take the whole thing out. And then I rewrite what's left over, and I have x plus 3 over 1. I already mentioned 1 on the bottom, doesn't matter. Alright, so we're factoring first, cancel out what's next. Same deal here. Sometimes all you can do is a greatest common factor though, so I take out a GCF up top. It's a 3. Then I reduce by the common factor. 3 and 6 have a common factor of 3, so I reduce that down. I'm left with an x minus 1 up top, and it's over 2 on the bottom. And that's my answer. Back to more factoring, but factoring both top and bottom. So the first step, you factor top and bottom. Remember, factors of negative 11 that add up to 10. Factors of negative 8 that add up to 7. Alright, so factor top and bottom first. Cancel out the common factor. Rewrite what's left over, which is your answer. So I got that. Got one more example for you. Now, we'll have a couple like this at the end of your worksheet, where I have a GCF up top first. So I factor the top and bottom, but I'm factoring out a GCF up top first. Then I got to continue factoring the top, and then cancel out common factors, the x plus 6's, and then rewrite what's left over. X times x plus 2 over x minus 3. You can distribute up top if you want. I leave it as is and just call it a day. All right, that's your answer there. Now, this week I am going to give you the answers along with the worksheet to check your answers with. I need to see the work. If you don't show the work, I'm not giving you any credit, and I'm going to ask you to redo it with the work. Alright, so you need to show your work in order to get full credit. If you just have answers, that's not going to fly. Alright, and notice I'm not showing much work. It's really just one step, but I need to see that one step. Like back to this last problem. I just need to see one of these 2 steps, probably this step where it's all crossed out as well. So I need to see this step, then the answer. Same here, this step, then the answer. You know, that last one we just did, I might need to see a little bit more. I might see this step here, then this step over here, then the answer. Alright, I need to see at least one step first, then the answer. Now, on these ones, I might not give you the answers because my answers are pretty much the work. So on those ones, I'm not going to give you the answers. The factoring ones, I'll give you the answers though. So ones that look like this. Alright, I'll give you those answers, which is the majority of them. Alright. If you have questions, as always, hit me up. At any point in time, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Hopefully you guys are doing well. And that's about it. See you guys.